Welcome. I'm Becky Van Poole, Recreation Specialist here at the Brand Senior Center. This is something new, premiere videos of some of our live events. Now I'd like to introduce Sherry Scott, the author of Abandoned. I hope you enjoy Sherry's presentation.
Halito, which means in Choctaw, hello. I'm glad that you stayed to listen to my presentation. I wrote this book quite some time ago. It's about my great-great-great-grandparents. My grandfather was a full-blood Choctaw in the state of Mississippi before they moved the Choctaw to Oklahoma. So it was a very hard time for those people. They did not want to leave their land, and a lot of them refused and said they would never leave. My grandfather said he would never leave, and of course he didn't. With Louisa Hayes, watched from the back of the wagon the steady rhythm of the horses. Their pungent odor drifted familiarly into her nostrils. She studied the shape of her father's shoulders as he slouched down in his coat, his hat pulled tight over his head. So peaceful was the scene, she thought, as she listened to the play of her young son scamper around in the wagon bed. He climbed over ropes and bags. Occasionally, he grabbed his grandfather by the coat tail and stood firmly planted, feet slightly spread as he balanced to the sway of the horses. Tears lay just inside her eyes, pools of warm pain that did not fall. The reality of their journey, now in its third day, struck terror inside her. She rubbed her hands across her cotton dress, feeling her swollen belly beneath the folds. What would she do, she wondered. How could she survive out here in the wild? Trees loomed high, causing deep shadows across the rutted road. Thicker and thicker they grew. The masses of tangled grapevines, deep thickets of wild plums, and blackberry bushes. The road they followed ended abruptly. Still, the horses trotted onward, finding a path of their own. She caught her breath as she scanned the wooded area around her. It seemed the world was closing about her. She watched the red clay roll up under the moss-covered earth as the wagon wheels ate into the ground. Again, she studied her father while he urged the team onward. He slapped the reins across the team's rumps as he clicked his tongue softly, a sign for them to keep going. How far, she wondered, is it to the place Father's taking us? They traveled all day. Soon night would cover the forest, and she and Roland would be alone in these woods. The Mississippi sun hung in the cold blue sky. Its warmth barely felt against the wind. She brushed an auburn hair strand from her face as her thoughts turned back inside her. So this is the beginning of my story. She's being exiled by her father because she's expecting a baby out of wedlock. And I've had such a hard time writing. I started at this part of the story because I could not believe that a father would do something like that. Take his child off in the wilderness and his grandchild as well. But that's what happened, and that's how the story began. However, when she was out in the wilderness, my grandfather saw her there and wondered what she was doing. And he took an interest in her and started providing because it was wintertime and there was no food for her to have. So that's the story, the beginning. And The books are for sale today. They're $15 a piece. I would get up in the morning and say, grandfather, grandmother, what are you doing today? Because when you write, when you get started writing a story, your characters become alive. They're really alive to you, and they seem so real. And things happen because of their influence in your life and in your family. Things happen that you did not plan to happen. And so that's how my story is, and I have enjoyed writing about it. I hope if you get a book that you will enjoy reading about them. There were wonderful people, good Christian people. My grandfather even was a good man, but in those days, I asked one of my great aunts about that, and she said people were mean in those days because it was hard. Life was hard. It was a new country, and people just had a hard time. So that's what I've written about, and I hope if you think you might enjoy reading the book, they're over there on the table. They're $15. They were moved, and that move they made with the civilized tribe was called Trail of Tears. And all of the 5 civilized tribes were moved, and they went on the Trail of Tears. They lost lots and lots of their people on that trail. Well, in my research, I did not find that anybody volunteered, any tribe volunteered to come. They were under the gun, so to speak. They were told what they could have here in Oklahoma, the land that they would have, and were promised things. When they got here, they would have things. On their way, if they had to stay, they had places set up for them to stay along the way. And a lot of times there would be no one there when they got there. And so it was a trail of tears, and I walked that trail of tears just because I wanted to see what it was like. I walked from Arkansas up to Durant, where they did actually walk. Well, I did actually write when I was in school, and I was encouraged in my writing. My English teacher, loved my writing and encouraged me, and I wrote a little short story about my dad. I wrote things that would be for children when I was younger, much younger, little stories like they tell in the books. And then I wrote a thing about my dad when I was in college, and my professor there wanted it to be published in the school magazine, which it was. So I wrote that, and I had such a feeling for writing that I decided I would start while I was in college on that story about my grandparents, because I wanted to write about them. Well, of course, you know, we're an Indian nation. There's 5 civilized tribes that live here that have been through troubles and trials, and always will be, I suppose. I see things happen now that are so unfair for the Indians. But when we were having this place filled up with people, there were other Indian people here. and we could talk, and we did enjoy talking and visiting and doing things. I had a wonderful friend who was Cherokee, and she and I did everything together. I went down to a reunion with her down in Tallahene, in the mountains down there, and it was a first cousin reunion because all of the aunts and uncles were gone. And it was so wonderful because we were just a bunch of Indians, and we just hooped and hollered and stomped our feet and did what we wanted to down there. And that's why I enjoy coming here. It's for fellowship and inspiration. You know, if you're down, like my husband passed away last year in May, and they were the people that I exercise with and visit with in here really helped me to get through that. It helped me to come here, to talk to people, to write. I'm writing another novel right now. I have one that's finished, it hasn't been published yet, and so I'm working on some things, and they're encouraging and they're helpful, and I love coming here.
Thanks for joining us. I hope you enjoyed that. We are having more of these in the future. Follow us on Facebook for information on upcoming video premieres.